Hey, Betty Fish. It's the 15th of October, 2018, and it's fall. The cold weather is coming, so keeps us pretty busy around here preparing for that. But I've been looking in on stuff and seeing all kinds of things, but this really kind of got my goat this morning when I saw this, okay? This is from yesterday. It's an article from CBS Sunday Morning, The Flat Earth Movement, a society of disbelievers in scientific fact. Okay, so they just basically go through this article, and in a very sly, cunning way, they ridicule and they misquote and they take out of context all the usual stuff, right? They do this entire write-up more or less just to call these people a bunch of fools and get the sheep to look and point and laugh at people who basically tell you where you live, which is on a flat, stationary plane with a cover, a firmament over it. That's where you live. And the reason I'm even making this video is because the other day I did a little short video. A lot of you don't know I have another channel here. And sometimes I'll throw up little short videos because I see something and I just want to, kind of get it out. And so I'll put a little blurb, 2, 3, 4-minute videos up on this channel, just because, But I did that the other day here on the 10th, referring to this article here that came out on the 8th. Okay, and it's literally from NASA, from the International Space Station, and this astronaut doesn't know any words in any language to match the beauty of an orbital sunrise. Okay, stunning space station shots revealed. Okay, this is official. And that is as flat as a pancake. Revealed. You see how they do this? They put it right smack dab in front of your face while they ridicule those who point it out. You see what I mean? It's a giant psyop. It's just another part of their ritual, their Hollywood sorcery aspect of it. But that, folks, is as flat as it gets. And it's 220 miles above the Earth from astronaut Alexander Gerst. Captured these stunning photos from the space station, flat as a pancake. Do you think they're trying to pull a psyop here, people? I do, because this is what they usually give you. For years and years and years, this is what we get. Okay? So Mr. Gerst here, the astronaut, he must have acquired himself one of those camera lenses that takes the curve out. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, the real thing they tell us is this. So this guy has a camera lens that takes the curve out. Think about this. Right in your face they're putting this. This is important. A lot of people, they don't care. They think it's silly. Who cares if the earth is flat or round? It matters, people. It changes everything. Do you know how many people have come to Christ because of this realization? I mean, I know atheists, literally, that will swear it's flat. They know it's flat. They know there's a firmament. They know that we can't go to Mars or the moon. And they're still atheists, but when they start seeing the darkness emerging around them, they come to realize, this world is not anything like you've been taught. So I needed to share that because here they are making fun of the flat earthers again when they, at the same time, they put out an article from the space station telling us that this is the sunrise from 220 miles up. Think about that. I'm just telling you, that's insane. And then we have the ridiculing of the flat earth as they are showing you the flat earth. The astronauts themselves are showing you the flat earth Alexander Gerst. Folks, that's flat. So, are you going to believe your eyes now when it comes directly from NASA, from the space station, or not? It's up to you. But it makes a difference. So, then I see this, okay? I'll wrap it up with this. This guy, right? What's his name? He's got a weird name. Pagan. Trevor Paglen, as in pagan. They're actually allowing this person to put this giant sculpture up in space that you'll be able to see with your naked eye floating around up in space for 3 months. And it's going up in November. It's going up that soon. Via SpaceX is going to shoot this thing up in space. I'm not kidding you. I'll link this stuff. It cost $1.3 million, ironically. 13. Interesting. 11. Just saying, you guys. And now this guy's going to put this thing up in space, okay? So space is a big deal to them, that they must keep this illusion going. So they're throwing up this giant psyop right here just to see how many people are actually going to open their mouth and point out that they are liars. NASA lies. That's what they do. The world lies. You want truth, you're only going to find it in this book through Jesus Christ. You need Jesus if you want any chance whatsoever of escaping the darkness that's coming upon this earth. And that's just a fact. So I hope you seek him diligently today and always. And I had to share that with you guys. You have a wonderful week. Peace and grace to all of you. Many fish.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord, and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God.
We're back to share to you some hidden knowledge that most people don't know about. Most of people out there will just swallow every single news from the media without questioning it. So in this video, we'll talk about it in details. I really hope that it could inspire and motivate you to find out the truth. Without any further ado, let's get to it.
Many people have woken up to the Earth being a flat plane, and this awakening will gain more momentum in the coming years. What still remains a mystery to many, within the flat Earth community, is the Moon, because it is probably the toughest nut to crack in the basket. This offering aims to clearly present what is logical and known about the Moon, plus information, myth, and intuition around some of the Moon's behavior and history, much of which the flat Earth community remains divided and disparate upon, amidst a bombardment of disinformation, ego, and confusion. The Moon has always been an enigma, it has always been worshipped throughout time, and its energy has always been harnessed by mystics and the like. Therefore, it deserves its own publication within the growing flat Earth community. And luckily, there are still some who prefer the refined, literal experience instead of a YouTube clip, at times awash with ghastly music, amateurism, subscriber addiction, and haste. Let us look at the Moon upon the flat Earth model, before we prove this has to be the case. The Moon moves around us in spiraling circles above the stationary flat Earth, moving from tropic to tropic, over the course of 6 months, in an almost identical trajectory to the Sun. All humans on Earth can only ever see one face of the moon, and it appears with the face rotated, with the degree depending on location. The moon covers the full 360 degrees of rotation. Mainstream science simplifies this fact, and states, the moon is right side up north of the equator and upside down south of the equator. This isn't true, it appears rotated to different observers in different locations. If the Earth and Moon were both balls, then humans at the far north would see a different face of the Moon than those in the far south, with some overlap. The only way we can all see the same face is upon a flat Earth. One can clearly see the Moon moving away from the observer, to the vanishing point of a human's eye. Eyes are spherical objects that focus light on the lens at the back. The horizon has nothing to do with the shape of the world, and everything to do with distance. People are fooled into thinking that horizon is the edge of the curve. We are told the moon's phases are from sunlight, via the sun's angle to the moon, but this cannot be the case. This is the mainstream model. But, when it is new moon in day, in the ball model, we should see a black silhouette. We don't though, we see nothing. We should see a silhouette in the ball model, because the sun is so much bigger than the moon, and behind it. Also, we can see a nearly full moon in the day. This is not possible on the ball Earth. As during the day, the Earth is facing the sun. The Earth would be in the way of someone trying to see the moon in the daytime. Also, we can sometimes see the sun and moon in the sky at the same time, for some hours in the days, just before and just after the full moon. There is nothing between the sun and moon, so the moon should be 100% lit in the ball model. There is nothing obstructing the massive sun's rays, but the moon appears only 4/5 or so illuminated. If the moon was orbiting the Earth, and both were orbiting the sun, then 6 months later, the moon's phases should have swapped over, and each lunar month, the phases should appear different. We are told that the sun gives the moon its light for the phases, but, if this were the case, during each lunar month, the moon would be at a different angle to the sun. It would be impossible for the phases to remain the same each lunar month, but they do. Study the two images at the screen to get a full understanding of this. These two images both present the same mainstream paradox. A. The moon does what it does with its phases each month. B. The moon goes around the sun with the Earth. One of these has to be wrong, but we are told that both are true. You can see from these two images that the moon should have a different light reflection from the sun, at different locations, around the sun, but at the same time, and location of its own lunar month. It should actually act like this, but it doesn't, helping to prove the ball Earth model is a hoax. This might need some contemplation, a pen and paper, or possibly a rewatch. But it is indisputable. The moon cannot be above a ball, or the reflection on the ocean wouldn't reach to the person on the shore, but it does reach an observer on the shore. If the moon were above a ball, the reflection on the ocean would behave much differently. See the image where we have pieced in the curvature. We are told that the gravitational pull of the moon alone creates the tides, but this is also wrong. If the moon was 2,160 miles in diameter, and the Earth 8,000 miles in diameter, the Earth would be 87 times larger, and would attract the smaller mass to it, in this case the moon, not the other way. We are told the Earth's stronger gravity keeps the moon in orbit, so how can the moon's weaker gravity override Earth's gravity at Earth's lowest points, sea level and below sea level? If the magical error-ridden force, called gravity existed, all trees would look like willow trees, and all flowers would wilt in an N shape. But that is for another time. The Earth's tides vary greatly. For example, near the Isle of Wight, there are 4 tides a day. Some beaches have tides, which go out far, while others not so much. The mainstream map of tides is not uniform, and would not be caused by a single body moving harmoniously across from east to west. Thomas Winship, in his book, Zetetic Cosmogony, said, "If the moon lifted up the water, it is evident that near the land, the water would be drawn away, and low instead of high tide caused. Again, the velocity and path of the moon are uniform, and it follows that if she exerted any influence on the earth, that influence could only be a uniform influence. But the tides are not uniform. At Port Natal, the rise and fall is about 6 feet, while at Beira, about 600 miles up the coast, the rise and fall is 26 feet. This effectually settles the matter, that the moon has no influence on the tides. Tides are caused by the gentle and gradual rise and fall of the earth on the bosom of the mighty deep. In inland lakes, there are no tides, which also proves that the moon cannot attract either the earth or water to cause tides. But the fact that the basin of the lake is on the earth, which rests on the waters of the deep, shows that no tides are possible, as the waters of the lakes, together with the earth rise and fall, and thus the tides at the coast are caused, while there are no tides on waters unconnected with the sea." Dr. Samuel Robotham also said, "It is affirmed that the intensity of attraction increases with proximity, and vice versa. How, then, when the waters are drawn up by the moon from their bed, and away from the earth's attraction, which at that greater distance from the center, is considerably diminished, while that of the moon is proportionately increased, is it possible that all the waters acted on should be prevented leaving the earth, and flying away to the moon? If the moon has power of attraction sufficient to lift the waters of the earth at all, even a single inch from their deepest receptacles, where the earth's attraction is much the greater, there is nothing in the theory of attraction of gravitation to prevent her taking to herself all the waters which come within her influence. Let the smaller body once overcome the power of the larger, and the power of the smaller becomes greater than when it first operated, because the matter acted on is nearer to it. Proximity is greater, and therefore, power is greater. How then can the waters of the ocean immediately underneath the moon flow towards the shores, and so cause a flood tide? Water flows, it is said, through the law of gravity, or attraction of the earth's center. Is it possible then, for the moon, having once overcome the power of the earth, to let go her hold upon the waters, through the influence of a power which she has conquered, and which therefore is less than her own? The above and other difficulties which exist in connection with the explanation of the tides afforded by the Newtonian system have led many, including Sir Isaac Newton himself, to admit that such explanation is the least satisfactory portion of the theory of gravitation. Thus we have been carried forward, by the sheer force of evidence, to the conclusion that the tides of the sea do not arise from the attraction of the moon, but simply from the rising and falling of the floating earth in the waters of the great deep. That calmness, which is found to exist at the bottom of the great seas, could not be possible if the waters were alternately raised by the moon, and pulled down by the earth. David Wardlaw Scott also said, even Sir Isaac Newton himself confessed, that the explanation of the moon's action on the tides was the least satisfactory part of his theory of gravitation. This theory asserts that the larger object attracts the smaller, and the mass of the moon being reckoned as only 1/8 of that of the earth, it follows that, if, by the presumed force of gravitation, the earth revolves round the sun, much more, for the same reason, should the moon do so likewise, instead of which that willful orb still continues to go round our world. Tides vary greatly in height, owing chiefly to the different configurations of the adjoining lands. At Chepstow, it rises to 60 feet, at Portishead to 50, while at Dublin Bay it is but 1-2, and at Wexford, only 5 feet. That the earth itself has a slight tremulous motion, may be seen in the movement of the spirit level, even when fixed as steadily as possible, and that the sea has a fluctuation, may be witnessed by the oscillation of an anchored ship, in the calmest day of summer. By what means the tides are so regularly affected is at present only conjectured. Possibly, it may be by atmospheric pressure on the waters of the great deep, and perhaps, even the moon itself, as suggested by the late Dr. Robotham, may influence the atmosphere, increasing or diminishing its barometric pressure, and indirectly the rise and fall of the Earth in the waters. The sun and moon together create the tides. The biggest tides are, when the sun and moon are both above the horizon, and one near to the other. The combination of the sun and moon locations, most probably create electromagnetic currents. Tides only happen in the oceans, never in creeks, rivers or marshes. The ocean is made up of salt water, and salt is a conductor of electricity, and therefore has an EMF. Salt molecules are made of sodium ions, and chlorine ions, and an ion is an atom that has an electrical charge. Here's a sea temperature map upon the flat Earth. It's also possible this has a bearing on tides too. I've noticed that when the sun is over, say the Atlantic, then it's low tide, and when the moon is over the Atlantic it is high tide. In my research into electromagnetic energy is that the sun is very energetic to humans, animals and even gives food to plants by chlorophyll. And the moon is the negative energy as it putrefies plants etc. So in studying I've noticed, it may be affected by this dual positive-negative together, and they work in harmony, with the ions in the water, and electromagnetic fields. When we look at tides on the flat Earth model, things make more sense. The moon is 32 or so miles wide, as is the sun. The moon is around 3,000 miles away. Do you really think you can see details on something 235,000 miles away, when you can't see details on a mountain 70 miles away, on a clear day? I have a theory that the moon could be as near as 700 miles away, but I would need a sextant to do my own calculations, but I don't have one. One thing's for sure, it is much closer than we are told. Currently, I cannot go against the 3,000 miles away distance. The moon is very similar in distance from Earth as the sun is, but is a bit closer to Earth, as the moon appears in front of the sun on a solar eclipse. The moon is anything up to a few hundred miles nearer to Earth than the sun is, but the altitude of the moon, and the sun too, varies. How do we know this? We can witness total solar eclipses, and annular solar eclipses, as we will see later. The moon travels around 60 to 70 minutes a day, slower than the sun in a 24-hour period. The moon's movement, forward motion, is not the forward route through the zodiac as we see it in the sky. The moon's travel is the other way as the backdrop of the zodiac spins or moves faster, as viewed from a human eye. This is also the same rule for the sun. The constellations go much faster than the moon, as viewed from a human eye, so the moon appears to go through a zodiac constellation each 2.5 days or so, in reverse, but this is seen in astrology as normal or forward. The constellations only go slightly faster than the sun, as viewed from the human eye, so it spends a longer time in each constellation, about a month. Here are images from Stellarium, showing the movement of the moon from a baseline in southern Spain, then 48 hours later, and then another 48 hours later. The moon really is moving as Stellarium suggests, essentially ball Earth software. Its line in the sky is correct. A new moon is basically when the sun overtakes the moon, as it moves quicker. A lunar overtaken. A full moon is basically when the moon is as far away from the sun as it can be within the current lunar cycle, but the sun is slowly catching up, and now moving into the same semicircle. A lunar run, but can't hide. This image is presented as a fact, with the lunar nodes around the globe Earth, the cause being due to an approximate 5% tilt of the moon's orbits. Within the flat Earth model, this is simply explained. We look up, and we see the moon moving above and below the sun's apparent path, which is known as the ecliptic in ball Earth terms. In flat Earth terms, the ecliptic is just a line that shows the sun's path, nothing more. So, over the course of time, twice a month, the moon crosses above, and then below the sun's trajectory line. Where the moon crosses it, this is a node. The moon spends half the time above this line, and half the time below this line, from a human eye on our flat Earth. The nodes are intersections. It's important you understand and remember this simple nodes explanation for the eclipse chapter much later on. We will use the term flat Earth node from now on to avoid confusion. The moon at a node is related to eclipses, and to the past and future in astrology. The south node natal placement of a person is what one brings into this incarnation. The north node natal placement is where one can evolve and learn the most, where one should be heading. Why are there no photos of the moon from one of the thousands of satellites we supposedly have in space? Or any photos from the ISS, supposedly it is manned all the time, but no photos of the moon? The Hubble telescope hasn't taken any photos of the moon, as it is apparently on high zoom mode. NASA has also made some errors with the moon. Here is the moon being supposedly filmed from the ISS. For sure, this is a really poor effort at Photoshop, a white circle, maybe the license ran out and they had to use Microsoft Paint? Here is a famous NASA image on the left, the Earth from the moon. But this is wrong. The Earth is supposed to be 4 times bigger than the moon, but the Earth appears about the same size the moon does from Earth. The image on the left should have looked more like the one on the right, if the ball model were true.
And that's the only pole on the other side of the slope from Little America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Here. So I was going back through some of my old videos. I was looking through my video manager, and I noticed that one of my oldest videos, titled "A Monolithic and Ruthless Conspiracy," it's 1 minute and 14 seconds long. It was demonetized by YouTube, not suitable for advertisers. So I was like, this is a short video, and all it is a speech from Kennedy in the assassination videotape, the Zapruder film. So I click it to watch it. Let's watch this video together.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
That as a commercial for my channel. All it was Kennedy speaking himself and the actual Zapruder film footage. I made no assertions of my own whatsoever. And what's weird about this is right here. What is this on the bottom of my video? This isn't from me. It says, from the Encyclopedia Britannica, Assassination of John F. Kennedy. Assassination of John F. Kennedy. Mortal shooting of John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, as he rode in a motorcade in Dallas, Texas on November 22nd, 1963. His accused killer was Lee Harvey Oswald. Of course, gotta make sure everyone knows that. A former U.S. Marine who had embraced Marxism and defected for a time to the Soviet Union. Oswald never stood trial for murder because while being transferred after having been taken into custody, he was shot and killed by Jack Ruby, a distraught Dallas nightclub owner. Official government propaganda. Why is the official government propaganda attached to the bottom of my video? Let's click here and say, why am I seeing this? Information panel providing topical context. Note, this feature is currently available only in the United States and South Korea. I'm so glad that we're on the same level playing field with South Korea. Users may see information from third parties, including Encyclopedia Britannica and Wikipedia, alongside videos on a small number of well-established historical and scientific topics that have often been subject to misinformation online, like the moon landing. An information panel providing topical context may appear in search results or on the watch page of videos. It will include basic, independent, third-party information about a given topic and will link to the third-party partner's website to allow viewers to learn more about the topic. This information panel will appear alongside videos related to the topic, regardless of the opinions or perspectives expressed in the videos. I gave no opinion. Was this article helpful? No. This article is an Orwellian nightmare. Thank you for your feedback.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. This isn't the first time that I've talked about Macaulay Culkin. And no, I'm not making accusations against him or any of these celebrities, but I'm showing you the very odd repetition, obviously all the connections to Satanism. Macaulay Culkin, somebody who, sells t-shirts on his website, who has shirts with the upside down pentagram. What a coincidence, right? Obviously has very bizarre, abnormal behavior. Somebody who, has his own podcast, Pushing Bunny Ears, which is another Illuminati symbol referencing MK Ultra mind control programming. But Macaulay Culkin did a show, or a Twitter show, I guess, during the Oscars. And I actually saw this after the fact, after I had already recorded my Oscars video, where I talked about how everybody who's on stage, people look and they're like, oh, what a performance. This person did the best this year in the acting category or the directing category. And I said, that's what people think when they see it. When I see it, I wonder what ritual sacrifices these people made when they win these awards. Like, who did they sacrifice this year? What type of disgusting, disturbing satanic rituals were they involved in? Because usually that's really how all this stuff goes, right? Who did they perform for privately? What did they do behind closed doors? So I found it interesting. Somebody messaged me and said, go look at his Twitter feed in regard to one of the actors, the guy who won for Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie about the band Queen. And get a load of the tweet from Macaulay Culkin. Rami Malek, I believe I'm saying his name correctly. If I'm not, well, then he could be disrespected. Rami Malek eats babies. There, I said it. Mac tweets the Oscars. Right? If you're familiar with my channel and you've watched my channel, how many times have I talked about these celebrities constantly referencing eating babies. Why is this some type of a joke in Hollywood?
I eat children.
How
How old are you?
12.
12.
Oh, okay. Only to 10.
Only
Okay,
to
that's
10.
good.
Okay, we are safe.
Yeah.
That's good.
Children and pineapple.
The Rock talked about doing it. Other celebrities have talked about doing it as comedy, and then they hit the laugh box and the audience laughs and think that it's funny. Do you know how sick and depraved you have to be to think that that's funny? In addition to that, he has other bizarre tweets during the show, such as, if Bohemian Rhapsody wins Best Picture, it won't be the first time an alleged sex offender directed a Best Picture. Now, we all know Roman Polanski. I mean, you pretty much have to bet that all of these directors who win, just like all these actors, are, involved in being sex offenders. I mean, you'd have to assume that based on all of this stuff that we see and how these people are all connected and related to each other. They all have the same signs and symbols that they use in their Twitter posts, Instagram accounts, this clothing that they wear, constantly showing us Satanism, occult worship. And then they're always cracking jokes about pedophilia and about eating babies. This stuff is not just a random coincidence. This stuff is sick. But unfortunately, we live in a world where people can tweet stuff like that, and it's not a big deal. And when people like me talk about certain topics, it's a huge deal. And it shouldn't be allowed to be said. I mean, this is a guy who clearly was in Hollywood, pimped into Hollywood at a young age, okay? And I know people want to feel sympathy for these people, but you got to remember, yeah, they deserve sympathy, but a lot of these children who get abused at a young age end up becoming handlers. That's how this vicious cycle works and continues on. Yes, it's through trauma-based mind control. And yes, it's originally out of their hands, but at some point in time, they can stop this by not becoming abusers. Now, I'm not claiming that this person is. I'm not saying Macaulay Culkin is, right? But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure these things out if you look and you see all the repetition that they all use, okay? Then we have Macaulay Culkin inside doing his bath ritual, right? Remember, I talked about the bath baptism, the satanic baptism, why we always see it in these music videos. Here he is just laying in a bathtub in a suit, because that's normal, right? Things I'm doing instead of hosting the Oscars, bathing, right? Why is it all the same stuff? Why is it always referencing these things, right? Bathing, pentagrams, Baphomet worship. The guy's got bunny ears as his main gimmick now. Referencing sex offenders like it's a joke. Referencing eating children like it's a joke. Because the regular person out there hears that and they can't fathom that people would eat babies. Like, oh yeah, they're not literally eating babies. Nobody would do something like that. Even though you have, celebrities like Kim Kardashian talking about having vampire facials, how covering your face in blood is the fountain of youth. And they show it in all these shows like American Horror Story, eating their placenta, cannibalism, right? But no, it's not real because those shows are fiction. Meanwhile, everybody puts on the 9 o'clock news and believes what they see on there. And there couldn't be anything other than fiction on the news. From Trump all the way down, left and right, fiction. These people get away with this stuff in front of our face. They use sarcasm, they use art, they use the terms humor, and that's how they get away with it. Remember, the Bible talks about how all of this stuff will be revealed to us. Well, it is being revealed. The problem is that they're cheating at the game because they're using tactics like sarcasm and humor to deflect off of the severity, but they're playing by the rules, technically, right? Because you don't think do you think that God would allow this stuff to happen without them revealing these things, without prophecy being fulfilled? No, he wouldn't. And they're playing by the rules by revealing themselves, but they're playing between the lines with these things. There's nothing funny about jokes about eating babies. And I think it's pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. It just shows, my mindset is right on the page of understanding these people. And I'm not patting myself on the rear end here because I never do that. But the video I recorded, which is you'll probably see before you see this one, okay, because I do my videos a day in advance before they go up. I can't do them in real time anymore. I can't get past YouTube's algorithms unless I give it 24 hours for them to manually review it, or the videos will get blocked. And I talked in that video about how every person on that stage was involved in some type of satanic sacrifice ritual and something involving children, and that's why they're getting their reward. And lo and behold, Macaulay Culkin's sitting there, this guy who has been in the, so many people have called this guy out for so many different things. And yes, the voodoo donuts I get all that stuff, but I'm not making accusations against any of these places. I don't know what's going on. I can only tell you that all of these places that have been pointed out do use satanic occult symbols. And I don't believe in coincidences, but at the same time, you can't make accusations and claims against somebody without evidence. Okay? And you can't just use symbols to call somebody a sex offender. You just can't. It's not how it works. Can you be suspicious? Yeah. Should you be? Absolutely. Right? And same thing goes with Pizzagate. Regular heterosexual men aren't posting photos of children taped to tables or, holding pizza slices over their crotch, or sexual innuendos where there's pictures of little kids staring at grown men's rear ends in thongs, things like that. Right? There's nothing funny about it, but these people are so demented and sick, they get away with it because we live in such a society that is so open and accepting of everything. I mean, look how the tolerance movement has flown through the roof. Tolerance, tolerance, tolerance. Everybody's accepting of everything. Except what? Free speech for people like me and people like you who listen to this channel. Because it's offensive, the fact that we, would say that an event might not necessarily have gone down the way that the government says. Meanwhile, these are the same people who hear things about, 9/11 or JFK's assassination, and there's millions of books out there on JFK's assassination, and everybody has a theory other than the original explanation of what happened, right? And nobody's suspicious that the government never released the information on it, right? And they continue to delay releasing the information on it. Nobody's like, well, that's weird. Something shady must have happened. Yet when these other events happen involving schools and things like that, if we point anything out or question anything and just say, look, this doesn't make sense. Look, this person's connected to Freemasonry or the DeMolays. Look, these kids are all in these student film movies. Oh, they're here. They're actors. Oh, this or that. Right? It's hate speech. How dare you say something like that? But they want to take away the free speech of people like me and you because we're too close to the truth and we're too close to waking people up. So I wanted to do this rant because as soon as somebody, and I want to thank the person, I don't have their name open right now because I'm recording this, but you know who you are. Somebody wrote to check out Macaulay Culkin's Twitter feed. I appreciate it. I always appreciate when you guys send me stuff. Okay? I'm beyond grateful. I look at the emails. I read the stuff. I can't get back to everybody. A lot of time goes into this, but I greatly appreciate it. And you can go through this guy's stuff. He's taking a bath. He's doing the bath baptism. To talking about eating babies, to talking about how it's not the first time, and don't say, oh, well, he's just referencing Roman Polanski. He's probably referencing every single person ever that's won an Oscar. And he's probably wondering why he hasn't got one yet. But I don't know if you're going to get an Oscar for The Good Son or for The Whiz Kid. I don't know what else he was in other than Home Alone. Which, we all grew up watching Home Alone. That's another story for another day. Okay, the guy's selling shirts, merchandise with the pentagram on it. These people are all networked and connected to each other. That's how they get put in these positions. All right? And listen, I don't want to hear anyone say, oh, you talk about some of these celebrities because you're jealous or you want to be famous and things like that. I actually don't want to be famous. So I don't show my face. I don't want to be popular. But meanwhile, my channel gets more views than most of these people get on their Twitter accounts, on their Instagram feeds. These people are pushed in the mainstream. Some of my videos get more views than TV shows. So no, I'm not saying it for attention. I'm saying it to show you the repetition. And that these people think that they're clever by pointing all this stuff out and talking about these things, like The Rock talking about eating babies like it's a joke. And we allow them to get away with this stuff. We allow them to. Why? I don't know anymore why. Because we live in a weak, watered-down society where there are no men. Everyone's spineless. Or where women want to be men and men want to be women. Macaulay Culkin, folks. Right in your faces. Talking about this stuff like it's a joke. Yeah, well, we all know the truth. about all of these people and their involvement in this stuff, and God sees everything. And I wouldn't want to be in their shoes on Judgment Day. Thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.
Now, I noticed many commenters claiming they are hearing Sex and the City, an interview with the vampire. I find this quite interesting, as the video at the moment has about 1,900 likes and only about 272 dislikes, which means a vast majority are hearing it exactly like me. Sex in the City, an interview with a vampire. But many of us going through the Mandela effect has seen this type of thing before, where some people hear a certain word while others can hear an entirely different word. It's almost like that video, Yanni versus Laurel, or Brainstorm versus Green Needle, that was spreading all over the internet months ago, where some people can hear Yanni or some people can hear Laurel. Or if you think of Brainstorm, you will hear Brainstorm. If you think of Green Needle, you will hear Green Needle.
Laurel, 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 Laurel.
The only difference is, those can be explained by simple frequencies. As we age, our ears can hear higher frequencies. So if you lower the pitch, you'd be able to hear Yanni. But if you increase the pitch, you'd hear Laurel.
Yanni, Yanni.
Laurel, Laurel.
So you see, at times people can hear entirely different things differently than other people. But this does not explain the Mandela effect and how so many people, including myself, remember Sex in the City, an interview with a vampire. Not just by people speaking it, but also actually seeing it written down. I can remember the show's intro saying Sex in the City, and I remember it in the TV guide, on the TV station itself, and friends posting about it all over Facebook. I also owned a copy of Interview with the Vampire, and I know for sure it was Interview with a Vampire.
Sex in the City, I'm a Sex in the City girl. I'm a Sex in the City, I'm a Sex in the City girl. You could be my Sex in the City, I'm a Sex in the City girl. You could be my, you be my, yeah. Sure. We're close underwater. They ain't jealous of your photographs. Yeah, cause your caps in the corner. I'm mad in everything you do, and I see why. Cause rumor has it you were my girl. In another lifetime, I testify. Yeah, and you know I've been looking for you. Oh, except the word.
It also does not explain why most people remember Darth Vader in Star Wars saying, "Luke, I am your father," when he never says that. He says, "No, I am your father."
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
Not true.
La la la, Luke. Luke, I am your father. Lord, la, lo, 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 la, lo.
Aw, I've interrupted happy time. Look, your father wants you to check out the delay problems we're having at the loading dock. Now, I know you'd love to just sit there and keep being not slim, but we gotta work a little today, okay?
That was from Star Wars.
I know.
So you'll notice that he said, Luke, I'm your father, not no, I am your father. For all those who are wondering about this Mandela effect stuff, here's your 2005 Darth Vader Star Wars Hallmark ornament that says, Luke, I am your father, not no, I am your father. It says two things. Here's the other one.
Join me together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
And then once again,
Luke, I am your father.
Even James Earl Jones and Mark Hamill remember the line as, Luke, I am your father.
When I first saw the dialogue that said, Luke, I am your father, I said to myself, he's lying. I wonder how they're going to play that lie.
Don't mind us. Just like if you were to remix the whole Darth Vader thing, and I said, Max, I'm your father. Do you think maybe you could do that to me?
I can't say those lines.
Why? Why?
They belong to George Lucas.
But you wouldn't be allowed to say it, even though we've remixed it and changed the name.
The sound, that belongs to me, but the words don't belong to me. I can't just...
No, but it's Max, though. We've changed it. There's new words. We've changed it to Max, I'm your father.
No, it doesn't matter.
We were getting on so well, and now you're saying, no, no.
Those are sacred words.
Could you do it?
Max, I am your father.
Alright, that's great.
Wow.
Final question.
Hello, caller. Yeah, I'm thinking about buying this guy, but I want to make sure he's the real thing. Can you make him say, Luke, I am your father?
Wait a minute, caller. Now, I didn't say that. Darth Vader said it.
Just play ball, Hamill. Let's do it. Just play ball.
All right.
Luke, I am your father.
So Keith Kemper, if I'm an idiot, as you called me for remembering it that way, then so are millions of others, including the actors who were in the movie. So calling me an asswipe in the comment section does nothing but make you look stupid and immature, because a lot of people remember it always as Luke, I am your father, even the actors themselves. Anyways, in my previous video, I presented evidence through award shows, talk shows, and even comedy sketches. That all has to do with simple hearing. But since different people can hear things differently depending on the frequency used and their age, I have decided not to show any clips where you have to listen carefully to what they say.